We were just trying to make in-season adjustments.
We do that. We do that.
We do. All right, you ready? As we continue with our weekly Fan and Press Luncheon with JMU basketball coaches, joined now by the men's basketball coach Matt Brady. The Dukes, just like the women's basketball team, had 4 games in 8 days. The Dukes emerged with a record of 2-2 in the CAA after a 2-0 start and 9-8 overall. Coach, the week began very well for you, off to the 2-0 start, but finishing at 2-2. Just your perspective on the week overall.
Well, obviously, starting out 2-0, you're hoping for great things. Started with the Towson home game and then the Charleston road win, where I thought we were gritty in both games. And then the home game versus Northeastern, where I thought we played a very solid first 20 minutes and held them to a season-low point total in the first half of 21 points. And I thought that their toughness and experience showed in the second half, and we didn't play nearly as well in the second half we did in the first. And I think the other day at William & Mary, I thought that we played hard in both halves. We didn't play well enough, and Marcus Thornton had a great game, and Terry Tarpey obviously had a tremendous historic game for William & Mary. But I think all in all, I thought in the first half we did what we needed to do to be in the game, and we held them to 31, which is 62 for the game, or 64, whatever you might have. And again, I think that William & Mary had a better second half than we did, and we didn't put ourselves in position to win the game. So, at the beginning of the week, if you say 2-2, maybe you like it, but when you start 2-0, you're certainly hoping for a better week.
Obviously, Charleston has had its issues. They're off to an 0-4 start, so it may take a little bit out of the win on Monday. But what did the Dukes do so well there in Charleston, South Carolina, playing on the road and simply getting a road win in the CA is a pretty good accomplishment.
Yeah, I think it's certainly significant, and we hope we get a few more of those on the road. But we played almost exclusively 3-2 zone, and I thought in that particular game, after their run in the first half, I thought that we rebounded the ball well against I think a really big 4 and 5 who both went to the glass on every possession. We really kind of got a push on the glass. That's a big deal because in these last 2 games we've been out rebounded significantly versus Northeastern, and we were -7 on the glass in the second half versus William & Mary. So, to me, for our basketball team, we've got to be tough, much more tough-minded, much more physically tough, and we've got to do a better job blocking out and coming up with more rebounds.
In the Northeastern game, seemed like every time you turned around, every shot missed, Scott Etherton was showing up. Were you trying to put a body on him? How is it? What makes him difficult to kind of keep where he is on the floor?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. I actually do think he doesn't look it, but he is a physically tough kid. I think he's a mentally tough kid, and I think he tries to get involved in every play. I mean, he's a guy who's built on effort. As he's a fairly skillful guy for our level. In fact, the next game I think he was 10 for 10 and had 22 points after our game. So a skillful guy, but really kind of driven to be as good as he can be. He's trying to get the most out of his ability. And he knows he can be a factor on the glass, and he goes after the ball, and I think he's done a good job all year long. I mean, he's not done it just against us. He's done it all season long.
So as you go forward now and you look at the last 4 games, what players, who are you looking at right now and just trying to give them specific assignments to kind of get maybe a little bit more consistency from player to player?
Well, I think the number one guy to be more consistent for us, which would help us, is Ron Curry. He's got to give us consistent shooting. He's always consistent defensively. He's really rock solid on the defensive end. But can he be a little bit more creative when he gets into the lane and find his teammates? And can he finish plays at the rim? And can he shoot 45% from the field almost every game? It's really what you need from a junior point guard. I think Yohani is he's a little bit up and down in terms of inside of a game, but at the end of every game he's getting double-digit points. He's doing what you want. We need his rebounding to go up. Poyas and Tom Vodanovich, I think they're giving us everything they can give us. Maybe we're asking too much of them. I think the other guy is Jackson Kent. I mean, I think we need him to have solid halves both games, but he's certainly capable, and he's done a really good job so far. Winston Grays is the other guy I think, that his minutes have been up and down, and I think those are guys that can be much more consistent.
Yohani Dallenberg did give you 3 good games last week, and then didn't get as many rebounds, particularly on Saturday. His mental makeup, he seems to be as difficult on himself as maybe any of the particular Dukes are. How do you approach him from that standpoint?
Well, it's interesting because he and I had a long conversation last night about exactly that and what's the best way to coach Yohani. And, during the course of the game versus William & Mary, he made a couple of very poor decisions off the dribble. He's really hard to guard when he's going at the rim off the dribble. And one thing that we've done I think we've worked hard with him is to take a second dribble and start to use your power and get closer to the rim. 3 different times he went off 1 foot off after one dribble and made bad plays. 2 got blocked and 1 was a turnover. And that was where I got frustrated with Yohani because it's something he works on every day and he's gotten better. But again, a young player on the road, and there's a little bit of a book on him. They're trying to space him and he's jumping before there's any contact. And now he's trying to go over people. It's not really his game. And he knew that. We talked about it after the game. We talked about it again last night. And he'll come into the gym today and be ready to keep working on it.
And I think the early scouting report, too, is he was driving to the right quite a bit. It was nice against Northeastern to see him go to the left a couple of times. So you can tell that he's still trying to develop his game.
No, and I think there's a lot of room left for him to continue to get better as a player. And he's very interested in trying to maximize his potential. He's got a world of physical ability. And I think when he starts to add more and more skill to his game, he'll become a much more difficult matchup.
After the first week, give us your assessment, surprises, maybe some disappointments out there from the Colonial Athletic Association.
Well, I think more than anything else, Hofstra remaining undefeated with a number of road games is significant for their quest, to try and finish as the #1 seed in this league. I think beyond that, I think everybody's still searching. I think even William & Mary, they went on the road and beat, they went on the road and beat Drexel by 25, and they beat Charleston by 30. You can look at it 2 ways. That we had an opportunity where we could have played better and won, but I also think, they're really good at home. They were really good the other night. You got to give them a lot of credit. They played. I thought they shot the ball well. They shared the ball well. We didn't play particularly well offensively. We missed a lot of shots. We had 10 shots blocked. We shot 50% from the field. We could have given ourselves a much better chance to win that game on the road had we played better. If we had more good basketball from everybody. But I think all in all, this league is going to be what it. And I think I said this last week. It's kind of what it is in every level in basketball. Last night, Oregon State beat Arizona. And the people in Vegas were surprised by that, I can assure you. And Rutgers beat somebody last night, Wisconsin, even though they were banged up. You've got to play really, really well in this day and age, and this is the way it's going to be in college basketball.
Drexel has struggled out of the gates, only 3 wins for the Dragons. They do have a conference win now, but what's been the problem for Drexel? What's Bruiser up there dealing with?
Well, first and foremost, injuries. He's lost 2 very significant pieces to his team. They're making some adjustments as they're playing. They're playing a little bit of zone now. They're pressing a little bit of zone defense, which they've never done. He's playing 4 guards, which they've almost never done except for one time against us last year. So he's playing 4 perimeter guys. They're switching a lot of screens. They're trying a lot of different things to try and get better. And, Bruiser has had some difficult non-conference seasons for a variety of reasons previously, and they've always seemed to right the ship. And we'll see if that's the case. We at least for a couple games, want to make sure they don't right it on our dime.
All right, the Dukes at Drexel on Thursday night. Let's open up to other members of the media here at O'Neill's Grill.
Coach, it seems like that last game of the non-conference schedule was a bit of a turning point. How has the team's effort as one unit changed since that game? Since the game against Valpo.
3-game slide.
Yeah.
I thought we were much more gritty, and I think we have been. And if I said to you we played 8 halves since then, I think we've been pretty consistent. We have not rebounded the ball well, and we do have a penchant for turning the ball over sometimes in odd ways. But I think our shot selection has gotten better. Our defense has gotten better in half court. I think individually we need to make strides. We need more consistency from guys. But I still feel that this group recognizes, and we've talked about it at length yesterday as a team, that this team knows there's more within the group, and that I think we're going to play better even as we go forward from today.
After games, you've talked about the frustration with just the fundamentals. How is the frustrations? Granted, it's a young team compared to previous seasons in coaching.
You know, as a coach, if you're not winning and you're not playing up to your team's potential, you're frustrated. And I think we've had halves, and we've had a few games where we've played up to our potential. And I think, and I'm hopeful that this team will play up to its potential going forward. Last year was different because we were so young. The year before, we started off poorly, and I thought we played really good basketball for the last 16 games of the year. And I'm hoping that the same thing happens to this group, that we continue to get better. That's always what we talk about. That's why 6 weeks ago we talked about what's the win total, and for us, I don't know what it's going to be, but I know that I'm particularly aware of how where this team can go.
Looking back on Saturday's game, I wanted to ask you about your substitution patterns. That something I get asked about on Twitter more than any other subject, it seems like, with this team. You had Dimitri check in your first wave of players. I don't think we saw him again after that, and then Harry Hall didn't come in until I think like the 5-minute mark of the first half. Could you just explain the thought process with that?
Yeah, sure. Fair question. Dimitri we thought he had earned the opportunity to get in the game because there's the two things he does. He's physical, and he has the ability to score the ball at the rim, because he is so big. And I thought when he got in, he played young again. I thought he made a couple of mistakes. He knew that he made the mistakes. And from that point forward, you made a decision. Well, we're gonna go with some other guys. With respect to Harry Hall, I actually thought that he played well. He didn't play as many minutes, but he did have 3 baskets. And if not for an inadvertent offensive foul by one of his teammates, he would have had 4 baskets in very limited minutes. What we need Harry to do is defend and rebound. We especially need him to rebound the basketball. His rebounds per minute is not very good. He's got the ability to rebound, and I do think he's a guy that's going to continue to get better. But he's got to be much more cognizant of this idea of the process of getting better as every single day in practice. He's a delightful young guy. He's got all the talent in the world, and I think he wants to be a good player. But like all young players, he thinks that he's arrived. And I thought there was a chance to put him back in the second half. We just went with different lineups, but. My hope is that Harry continues to kind of push himself through fatigue and make effort plays. And if he does that, he's a guy that could play as much as anybody on his team.
Mm-hmm. They got up 15 late in that game, and you guys went to your press and, made it interesting down the stretch. Afterwards, Yohani Dallenberg said he felt like you guys should have gone to that earlier. Was any regret on your part for not using the press quicker?
Well, we talked about doing it all game long, but it's interesting. Yohani can't play in the game if we press. It's interesting that he makes a coaching point when we press, he can't be in the game very long. And then I think the second thing is if you're going to do that against William & Mary, you can't just do it in bits and pieces. You have to kind of commit to it. And we've done that in years past and have won games because of, especially my first year, I think we beat him in the CAA tournament when we committed to playing that way. You can play that way, but I also think it's got to be part of who you are. And we haven't done much full court man-to-man, which is what we did at the end of the game. It's also somewhat easier to steal the ball and create turnovers when the other team is nursing a big lead and is uncertain of how to react. Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, 2 months ago I would have said we would have been doing a lot more of that, but given all the ups and downs of my roster, it became not who we could be this year. So I think going forward, will we do that? Can we do that in games going forward? Maybe. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. And we've had this conversation a million times so far since October, just about consistency and up and down play with this team. You knew that was going to be the case all the way. But Ron Curry is shooting. It's been kind of a surprise. Is that really the biggest surprise to you this season for your team, not getting more out of him?
Well, we need more out of him. And the answer I would give you is it would be hugely beneficial to our team if Ron can find a level of consistency that he's capable of. And right now he has not been. Ron and I had that conversation yesterday at length, in my office, and we talked about it and, the need for him to be consistent and what can he do to find consistency. We'll see, where it goes from this point forward, but certainly if he can be consistent and make some shots, it opens up the game for him. It opens up the game for his teammates. I can't really explain why he hasn't been consistent, but it would be helpful.
Do you feel like his role has changed at all since last season? Are you using him any differently?
No.
Poor shot selection? I mean, what is it?
Well, I don't know if it's poor shot selection. He certainly took enough shots the other night against William Mary, and 4 shots got blocked at the rim. It's one of the things we do every single day is a drill to prevent your shot from getting blocked. We call it an up and under drill, where you drive the ball, you land off 2 feet, and you show the ball. And the kids laugh at me because I tell our guys, when you show the ball, who's going to jump? And everybody says now in unison after a couple of years, everybody jumps, because everybody jumps. You have to at the rim. It's a critical weapon that not everybody is comfortable using, but the guys who use it score. And so, Ron's got to get a little more comfortable being able to drive the ball off 2 feet. I think he's got to be able to go all around the other side of the rim. The first drive that he had blocked in the first half, he drove the baseline and got it blocked on this side of the rim. And it's something you got to practice, but you take one more dribble, get closer, and if he lays up on the other side of the rim, it's a very ordinary layup. But it's not a hard play to block that shot on this side of the rim.
And last question for you. You said you don't feel like your team has played to its potential at times. Fair to say, in your opinion, these guys are underachieving at this point?
Well, I think we're inconsistent. But I would say to you, everybody in this league has been inconsistent outside of Hofstra. I think that Hofstra's been consistent, but I think they're committed to playing 4 guards, shooting a lot of threes, and they're consistently making shots. But I think everybody else in this league, all 9 teams feel how JMU feels right now. And as I look around mid-major basketball, there's only about a handful of teams that really kind of like how they're playing and haven't lost some games that they kind of kicked themselves for.
Coach, looking back to the Charleston game, there was a stretch in the first half where you didn't play quite as well. Obviously, you picked it up and you got the win. Looking back at game tape all year, are you seeing the same thing from that game, from the other games where you had those stretches where your team just doesn't play quite as well?
Well, this is what I would say. I thought in Ball State, in a road victory, we played 40 minutes of really good, smart basketball. And I thought in the Charleston game, there was a period of time where we were up 7 and then down 6 or 7, where we played not as smart as we had started the game versus Charleston. But that second half versus Charleston, to me, was reminiscent of the first half versus Northeastern, which very similar to the first half versus High Point. The thing that we've done is we've not played as hard. Now, I wouldn't say as hard. I don't think we've played as smart. Or have we made as many shots in the second half as we made in the first half. We've had better shooting halves in first halves we have in second halves. And I think that's a big part of it. Against High Point, we had a 7-minute stretch where we didn't score. Same versus Norfolk State. Same. I think, in a lot of these games. We've not shot the ball. And a lot of it is somebody's got to step up. And is it one guy the same game? I don't know that this team is the same. It's going to be the same guy every game. In fact, I know that Jackson Kent's made shots in the first half many times and not made shots in the second halves, and he's basically our leading scorer. So I think, for a young team, you have to be consistent in terms of your approach at both ends. Really helps when you make some shots, especially in the second halves.
You mentioned correcting your rebounding woes and wanting them to be more physical. How do you get them to be more physical without committing the fouls that come along with the physical style of play?
It's interesting. You go to coaching seminars across the country, and all coaches at every level have the same lament. And some programs have it within them. And but as coaches, we're always searching for it. So do you do it in 5-on-5 when you're playing offense, defense, and that becomes something you talk about? Do you drill it, which we did yesterday? Do you show it to them on tape when you break it down and show them your errors, which we have done from time to time? So, we're trying to do a little bit of all of it. We do it in 5-on-5. We drill it 3-on-3 and break it down 1-on-1, and then we show our guys our mistakes. And really, I think when you see it on video, guys can kind of react to it when they see the mistakes they make.
The Dukes at Drexel on Thursday night. That game will be on Comcast. 7 o'clock is the tip-off. And then on Saturday night, the Dukes at home against the Phoenix of Elon. And please be advised that is an 8 o'clock tip-off on Saturday evening, the Dukes and the Phoenix. Thank you for coming out this week to O'Neill's Grill here on University Boulevard. We'll be back again next Monday with Coach Kenny Brooks and Coach Matt Brady. Have a great basketball week, everyone.